Government's argument is, look, we are doing more than our counterparts were doing at the time. We are buying more health care in terms of what we can afford than our counterparts did earlier.
In fact, they're not actually buying more health care. They're spending more money, but not actually getting more health care, you see, Alan.
Well, let us examine that figure. Let us examine that figure as a percentage of the gross national product. But let's face it, is the only real way of establishing whether they're spending more or less, is it not? In terms of spending, what they get for it is another story. But are they spending more in terms of percentage of GMP or less?
Yes, but Alan, if you
know?
Yeah.
Well, you keep saying yes, you know. Are you going to tell us?
Okay. No, I don't know that particular figure, Alan.
I see. Well, that's but you've already agreed that that's the important thing.
No, I haven't agreed that's the important. What is the important thing, Alan? If you're a government department and you have to plan spending in advance, what you plan that on is the demand for the service that you're providing, what the expected...
no, I don't think you can. I'm sorry, Ronnie. I don't think you can only plan on the basis of need.
No, but that is partly what you do plan on. For
indeed,
instance,
that is part
Can I give you an example, Alan?
That is part of it. But the other part of it is whether you've got it. You see, I can equate need and actually work out that I need to live, just to stay alive and live, I need £50,000 a year. Yeah. That is a fact. I need it. The fact that I'm still alive with considerably less than it is incredible. It is just a miracle of magic. The truth is I need it. It depends. My needs are actually tailored to a sum considerably less than that.
Okay, how about this point? In the country, the percentage of old people is growing and is growing.
Yes.
Now, this is the group of people who constitute a high proportion of patients.
Yes.
When you go through that age, you go into the age where you have heart disease.
But Ronnie, this takes us no further forward. Ronnie, this takes us no further forward.
It does, because if the government is going to plan for something, then they have to take into consideration. For instance, if they're planning pensions, right, they would have to see how many pensioners, wouldn't they?
Ronnie.
Right? If you're planning benefits, you need to know how many people who... Yeah?
Yes, they do have to take all those things into consideration. But at the end of the day, there is only one figure that matters, and that is how much have I got.
Okay, right.
When you decide to buy a new car or a meal, you don't always go to the Savoy Grill and have caviar as a starter. Okay. The reason you don't is because you have to plan according to your purse. Now, the purse we are talking about is the national purse. It's known as the gross national product. Yeah. Now, the government only have the gross national product to spend. They have nothing else to spend, not 1 cent more.
Well, they have a proportion of the gross national product.
No, they have it. They have it all to spend one way or another. That is the money that turns around in this country every year. The gross national product. That is what they have. Some of it they spend on roads, some of it they spend on bombs, some of it they spend on the health service. Now the issue is, have they increased the proportion of the gross national product that they put to the health service, or have they decreased it? That is the issue. You don't know the answer. You don't know the answer.
What I do know, you
don't know the answer to that.
The point that I was making, Alan, was simply this: that they are claiming that they are providing greater service in the health service. I mean, they actually said that there's more operations, etc., whatever. But the reality is, Alan, and people understand. I saw you call it earlier. You can't equate that fact
I'm not
with what they're
interested.
saying.
You tell me what you've got to say. I'm not interested in our earlier caller.
Okay. Well, the point I was making is that what people don't understand is that the money that they're spending on the services that they're actually achieving is getting proportionally less and less of the actual demand that is there. For instance, right, because there's a greater proportion of old people, something like hip operations.
Ronnie, you're back in that. I'm sorry, you're back in that same bucket. You haven't addressed the point I put to you. Here is the point. I will put it again. I've heard your point over and over again. I've heard your bloody point. Here is mine, and let's see you address your little mind to it. Can the government afford to increase the proportion of the money it has available? That is the issue.
Yes, that's a simple question, and I think they can. Well,
how do you know whether they have or not? You don't know. You've already told me you don't know.
No, well...
You do not know.
No, I know that they're
You do not know.
I know what, Alan? That they're spending more money. Yes, they're spending more money. That they demand...
Ronnie, I'm going to ask you again, Ronnie, because you keep trying to avoid the answer. It's no good playing politics with me. I'm not on television. I'm not one of those namby-pambly little jerks that interview politicians. I want answers to my questions. If I don't get them, then you disappear. I don't have to tolerate your garbage. So here is the question again. Does this government spend a greater proportion of its national product on health services or not?
Yes, they do. Which is not the point that I asked.
We're not interested in what your point was. You want to say, a lot more people are having hip operations, a lot more people are having this, a lot more people are having that. But at the end of the day, they have only got so much money. They are already putting more money, according to you, because you did eventually say yes, they do.
No, I said there was a
You did eventually say yes, they do, Ronnie. When I asked you the last time,
Ronnie,
I've always said this, Alan. Ronnie, I asked you a few seconds ago ago whether they are spending a greater proportion of the gross national product. You eventually answered, yes, they are.
Yes, indeed.
That is what the point I make. I'm not talking. I am not talking about pound coins. I'm not talking about anything. Let me tell you, Ronnie, that if they actually spent 97% of the gross national product on their health service, it would still not be enough. It would not be enough. It would be a lot more than it is, but it would not be enough.
I'm about to agree with you partially on
if you agree with me partially, I'll settle for yes. That'll do. You're either yes or no. You're stuck with yes. If they did 60%, it would not be enough. If they did 50%,
it would, Alan.
so
yes,
what they
would.
no. That is interesting. I am
you,
fascinated, Ronnie. 97% wouldn't be enough. 50% would. Go to school. You need maths. Good night. How do, Eric?
Hello, Alan. What it is, I'm ringing up about my neighbour making a disturbance.
So there we were, browsing through the swimsuits when this gorgeous hunk came up to us.
He didn't.
He did. He said, you look like the sort of girl who's just booked her holiday with National Travel World's late booking desk, saved a fortune and got herself a microwave for only £79. So I thought to myself...
You didn't.
I did. I thought, how did he know? Turns out he's only a plumber from Preston and was in the queue behind me at National Travel World. But he took advantage of...
Please listen to my ditty. It may not be very witty, nor even slightly funny, but it will help save you money. For me, from cradle to grave, I aim to shop and save. I buy out I need, for next to nought indeed. There's meat and veg and cheese and pigs and booze and clothes and cards and sweets and pigs and pet food and household things. So shop and save a load down Blackpool's Waterloo Road, in the market they call new, and over road the M2. Thank you. Poetry in prices, from the New Market and M2 Market.
It's the place to come, where shopping can be fun. The New Market, Waterloo Road.
Rotters, the Northwest's only big night out. Every Friday and Saturday from 9 p.m. till 2 a.m. Enjoy the time of your life with the best in music at Rotters. The best in hen party nights at Rotters, with 4 bars, 4 dance floors and a better party night atmosphere. Check out Rotters, Oxford Street, Manchester, this Friday or Saturday. Rotters, fun galore and a whole lot more. It's bigger, it's better, it's Rotters. Ring Manchester 236-4934. Manchester 236-4934. Rotters.
The Red Rose Advertiser. It's a breakfast show, a morning market. It's a what's on diary and a blast from Beswick. It's a paper that's on your wavelength. The Red Rose Advertiser. And when it comes through your front door, look inside, because all that's fit to be read is in the Red Rose Advertiser.
So there we were, browsing through the swimsuits when this gorgeous hunk came up to us.
He didn't.
He did. He said, you look like the sort of girl who's just booked her holiday with National Travel World's late booking desk, saved a fortune and got herself a microwave for only £79. So I thought to myself...
You didn't.
I did. I thought, how did he know? Turns out he's only a plumber from Preston and was in the queue behind me at National Travel World. But he took advantage of 10% discount on any item over £100 at Centro.
He didn't.
He did.
If you want a last-minute bargain holiday plus a microwave for only £79, book before the 30th of June at National Travel World's late booking desk.
Well, we got all the way through it that time. It stopped halfway through at the beginning. Still, not to worry. Halfway through at the beginning. Now I'm talking gibberish. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Alan. I'd like to talk about capital punishment.
Well, you're not doing. I've told you earlier, we're not having capital punishment on the programme tonight, so you've been hanged. Howdy, David.
Hello, Alan. I'd like to talk about the new rates bill the government are bringing in.
Go on.
I think it's not fair, because what happens if you've got 2 people in the same house and one is unemployed? Does that unemployed person have to pay the new rate?
It doesn't actually say whether they have to pay the new rate or not. We'll have to wait and see. But the current situation is unfair also, in that your house is rated on the basis of, allegedly on the basis of its market value. Now that might mean that one individual is living in a very, very big house and has to pay massive rates, whereas they're only using the facilities themselves. The house doesn't use any facilities, it's the individuals living within it.
But doesn't it mean that there's more to pay if the new one comes in?
Well, first of all, let us presume that the rating money, the money gained from the rates, is £1 million. to pay the bills. The bills will not increase in price, so they'll still need to raise £1 million. All they're going to do now, instead of raising that £1 million by looking at the size of your house, they're going to look at how many people are living in the house and saying, well, just a minute, you've got 7 people living in this tiny little house. That means you use a lot more of the facilities available. Whereas, if it's 1 living in a dirty, great big house, you're using virtually none of the facilities available. It doesn't cost the local authority any more money to empty 1 bin at a big house than it does to empty 1 bin at a small house. So it's the number of people putting rubbish in the bin that counts. So that's the way they're going to divide it. Not on the basis of the number of rooms in your house, if you like, but on the basis of number of people using the facilities that they sell.
But are the services going to improve because of it?
Because of it, no. No, they're not, because all they're going to do is collect the same amount of money in a different way. So at the end of the day, they're just going to collect the same amount of money. What they're trying to do is make it more equitable. If you imagine, if you went into a pub and you asked for half a pint of bitter, and they put it in a pint glass and said, that's £1, and you say, hang on, £1, that's a pint. You say, well, it's in a pint glass. Yeah, but there's only half a pint in it. Yeah? You're gonna whinge. But that's what you do with your rates. You say, I've got a 5-bedroom house, so I'm paying rates for 5 people. But there's only me living in it. And then there's the house down the road that has got a 1-bedroom house with 9 people living in it. They got 9 people filling the bin, 9 people wearing the footpath out. There's only you. So it's unfair. So all they're doing is making it fairer. There is no completely fair system, but that's all they're doing.
But won't it mean they're getting in more money, for example?
No, because they'll just divide it a different way.
Well, wouldn't he have to drop it so that a single person living in one house, his rates will fall, whereas several people living in one house, their rates will increase? Because if they just make them pay for each...
The answer to that is yes. Several people living in one house are more than likely going to pay a bit more, whereas one person living in one house is going to pay a bit less, because that individual is going to pay for the facilities or his proportion of the facilities.
But what if they fix a sort of rate where they still have the rate for the house, but each person has got to pay that rate? Is that what they're going to do? Or
no, it's going to be a poll tax. Poll means numbers of heads. A poll tax.
But what if each individual's poll tax equals maybe a certain percentage of the rates already paid, and it ends up that...
Sorry, you're confusing me.
Well, say they're paying on a certain house £1,000 a year rate.
Yes.
And it turns out that with 5 people, they end up paying £4,000,
yes.
And a single person living in the same house pays maybe £800.
Yes.
Wouldn't that mean they're still going to make more money from it?
No, because all they're going to do... let us presume there are 10 houses in a street. And in those 10 houses, there are 20 people living. Not in each of them, but all together. So there's 10 houses in a street. All right?
Yeah.
At the moment, they're being charged as if there were 2 people living in every one of the 10 houses, because it's just 10 identical houses, and the rates are the same for them all. So they charge every house £10. Yes? So they raise £100, don't they?
Yeah.
Now what they're going to do now is they say, okay, to operate the current level of service to those houses costs £100. Currently, we've got every house paying £10. Because they're all identical, every individual is paying a £5. There's 20 individuals paying a £5, £100. That's fair, isn't it? Now if we move them about a bit and we make the first house a bit bigger, right?
Yeah.
And the next house a bit smaller, that is double the size of the first house, but make the next house half the size. All that happens then is everybody's paying the same except the residents of the first 2 houses. The residents of the first 2 houses are actually spending on the current system. They will have to send, instead of £2, the big house will have to send £3. You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
The small house will only have to send £1.
Yeah.
You with me? But there's still 2 people living in it. So the individuals living in the big house, instead of paying the £1 rates that would be fair, they're actually paying £1.50. Whereas the 2 people crammed into the small house are only paying 50 pence. Now then, it's the people that use the facilities supplied by the rating authorities, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not the houses.
Yeah.
So it's unfair to say, well, the house is the way we measure the price you pay. It should be the people are what we measure. Just count them.
Yeah.
So instead of measuring the house, they're going to measure the number of people. And they're going to say, right, we've got in our community, we've got 20 people living. We need £100 to pay for the services they require, so we want £5 off everybody. Now, where they live is not important. They want £5 off everybody.
Yeah. But does that work out fair? For example, you've got 2 single people living in 2 single houses. One house is very small and hardly uses anything. One house is very large.
But the house... No, you see, the house doesn't use a lot. What does a house use a lot of?
Well, the person in them, for example, the person in a large house might have more water outlets, so uses more water.
Well, yes, but you pay for water separately. This is the local authority and county rate we're talking about, not the water rate.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you now.
Okay?
Yeah.
Cheers. Ta-ra. Hello, Selina.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Selina.
I have this great fear of dying. Is that abnormal?
No, I don't think anyone's looking forward to it.
No. No, but I suppose like it's a fear of the unknown, really.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it is a fear of the unknown, but don't worry, we're all frightened of it.
Oh, well, I thought, like, I've heard people say no,
Anyone that says to you, Selina, they are not frightened of dying, are telling you a pack of lies. Don't tell them so, you'll only upset them. Well, just don't believe them.
Yeah, oh, well, I thought like it was, me, like different, because I have a great fear of it, actually.
Don't worry about it, you're normal. So have I. All right, love.
Thank you.
Cheers, ta-ra. I'll do to nobody, but we will talk to Paul shortly.
A far, far better furniture store.
Edmondson's of Blackburn, a far, far better furniture store. For lounge, dining room and bedroom furniture. For famous names in quality carpets. For all home furnishings. Edmondson's offers choice. Edmondson's gives first-class service. And Edmondson's guarantees value for money. All round a far, far better furniture store. At Darwin Street, Blackburn.
A far, far better furniture store. Edmondson's.
The Red Rose Advertiser.
In your Red Rose Advertiser this week, features on Tom O'Connor, Joe Mercer and David Jensen. Kids Corner with a star local junior DJ. Clive Lloyd's cricket column. Beswick hits out at Caravanners. And your letters on last week's controversy over horoscopes.
The Red Rose Advertiser.
There's a chance to win a £4,000 kitchen. And we ask, whatever happened to CB Radio? It's all in the Red Rose Advertiser for Preston and South Ribble.
The Red Rose Advertiser.
Hey, listen, the boss is away on holiday, so to get him back for years of stick, I'm clearing all his sockets, showers and cable. In fact, anything electrical at prices so low it'd go bonkers. The Triton T70 shower unit, trade price £61, my price £48.99, including VAT. Expel Air window fan, trade price £38, my price £31.50, including VAT. All this at Steve Gorton Discount Electrical Supplies, 39 Water Lane, Ashton, Preston. Or Electrical Super Save Centre, 230 Chorley Old Road, Bolton. But hurry, the boss gets back in a couple of weeks and he's bound to fire me.
How do, Paul?
All right, Alan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I went out picking mushrooms the other day. You know, magic mushrooms, yeah?
Why?
Why? Yeah, well...
Why?
To trip.
Then you're a fool.
Yeah, I know, but...
Good. How do, Joe?
Good morning, Alan. You spoke to a girl who was obviously disturbed about experiments to test cosmetics. And she didn't point out the redundancy of these cosmetics. There's about 350 new ones come out each year, in fact, none of which we actually need.
Well, the term redundant is not really relevant in that people are queuing up to buy them, so they're not redundant.
No, not in that sense. No,
but that was what you said.
The advertisers make sure that we feel we need them.
No, the advertisers only tell you they're there and what they can do for you. They don't make you buy them. They've never yet made me buy anything.
No, they seem to spend a great deal of money promoting these things.
They do promote them.
I think they must spend this money in the full knowledge that they convince some people they need them. But that's beside the point, actually. And you did reply with a very reasonable knockdown argument, pointing out that the drinking of milk also involves a great deal of cruelty to cattle. Yeah, and I wouldn't dispute this cruelty, you know. But then listens, or at least this listener, is left with the impression that you justify one enormous cruelty, i.e. the testing of cosmetics on rabbits, putting mascara in their eyes and so on, seeing if they blind them, by reference to another enormous cruelty, i.e. milk production. And it seems to me if you use an analogy on this, you might just as well argue that because there is a fair amount of racism in Britain, we oughtn't to give a sod about apartheid in South Africa, if you can follow that analogy.
I can follow the analogy, but I think it breaks down. All I'm putting to the person is that if we are to accept that animals are there for our pleasure, whatever form that pleasure takes, be it eating, because we only eat meat for pleasure, we can survive adequately without it.
Oh, yes.
So if animals are there for us to kill or maim for our pleasure, then they are. That is a yes-no principle.
Oh, yes.
It's an on-off light.
Yes-no principle. But you're following an argument to its logical conclusion, and, you know, I merely want to suggest that where the vegetarian is trying to live a reasonably moral life, you know, the logical conclusion is that we should all become vegan, but the vegan is actually a martyr to principle. You know, the vegetarian is not trying to be a martyr.
Well, I have defined myself on previous occasions on this programme as an almost vegetarian.
Yeah.
In other words, I do occasionally eat meat, most often when I'm doing an after-dinner speech and the like, when I don't want the hassle of mauling about with somebody else's menu.
Yeah.
However, I still say that vegetarians, like me, and those who are vegetarian but not vegan, I'm sorry, it's a pointless exercise in terms of love of animals. A totally pointless exercise if you continue to drink milk and eat chickens, periods.
No. There are degrees in everything, as you were the first to admit, actually. You know, it's a matter of degree. You know, one might, for instance, argue that I deplore violence just as much as you do, you know, so I try to avoid
I would
violence.
accept your point that there are degrees. I don't believe there are degrees in right and wrong. I believe right and wrong has no degree. It is either right, and if it is not right, then by default it is wrong. And vegetarianism is not quite right. It's therefore wrong. It's not as wrong as eating meat, as being omnivorous, but it is still wrong.
Yeah.
And as a quasi-vegetarian, I too am wrong.
Yeah, I'm in the same position as you. You know, I find myself tempted to eat meat from time to time rather than argue the fuss about it. But nevertheless, I just feel that vegetarianism is a step in the right direction, just as the abolition of slavery was a step in the right direction of democracy, you know.
Well, okay, I'll accept it's a step in the right direction, but it doesn't reach it. I think I don't think I can add to something that I've just had said to me in my earphones, Joe, and that is Rod next door, who isn't a vegetarian, just said to me I could eat meat till the cows come home. All right, Joe.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think either of us can top that.
No,
Cheers.
really.
Ta-ra. I think we've both just been hardested. Ta-ra. How did David?
Hello, I'd like to talk about the link between benefit and illness.
By benefit, do you mean welfare benefit?
Welfare benefits. I think they're all under the same heading, are they? Social Security, dole.
Yes, welfare benefits. I accept that. Go on.
Yeah, well, how...
I accept the term. Let's hear the argument.
They say that low income and all that contributes to poor health, illness, and they say people die younger. But I don't understand how, that could be linked. They say it's stress, but...
Well, there are a number of ways that it can be linked. First of all, there's the one you've already discovered, and that is one of the major killers in our society, is stress. And if you're worried about money, you're under stress. Now, there are people who are worried about money and worried about other things. There are those that tell me I ought to be under stress in this job. I'm still trying to find something stressful about it to make me under stress, but that's neither here nor there. Stress is a killer. So, if you have an added amount of stress than would normally be the case for you, then that is not a good thing. So that's point one. Point two, people on low incomes generally have a poor diet. People on low incomes, point three this is, generally have poor housing. People on low incomes generally have a poor leisure life, which is part of the stress thing before. So there are, if you like, 3 points possibly 4, all of which help contribute to poor health. People on low incomes cannot afford to buy themselves out of the poverty that can produce poor health. Not inevitably. My grandmother's still alive. My grandfather died a couple of years ago. He was a very healthy man in terms of he lived a long time and had a good life, but he was never a rich man. So there are people that live for a long time. My parents are not rich. They'll live probably longer than me. I'm reasonably well off, and I feel as if I'm going to die tomorrow. Rather hoping I do, to be honest, the way I feel at the moment. But
I hadn't thought about the second point, I think, was it about, or the third, about the holidays?
No, I didn't say holidays, I said housing.
No, that you said you can't enjoy yourself as much.
Yeah, the leisure. I didn't say enjoy yourself, I said the leisure. Having leisure time. Leisure time isn't just time when you haven't got any work to do. Leisure time is in your head.
That's right, freedom.
That's right, a sort of a mental freedom. Now, it's easy for me. If I was unemployed and poor, then the moors are free. I can go and walk the moors for free.
Yeah.
That's my leisure. But other people seek leisure in other ways. It's a matter of what's in your mind. But of course, some of the leisure facilities that we are taught to seek cost money. If you've got no money, you're in that constant problem.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't thought of that one, but my argument before you'd said that one was going to be that these businessmen and all them, they must be under a fair amount of stress, and they're in the upper wage, salary bracket, and obviously don't die young.
Well, first of all, quite a lot of them do die fairly young. The heart attack rate amongst businessmen, as you call them, is quite high. The people that work in the stock exchange, that are all driving about in red Porsches, retire at 35 and 40 because they're burned out.
Do they?
Yeah, these guys that are making like 50,000 a week on the stock exchange, they retire fairly early. So they do burn out, they do suffer stress, they do have not as healthy a life as you might think.
Yeah.
Because they live in comfortable housing, because they live in a comfortable atmosphere, because the only stress they have is their work stress, getting the next order, getting the next sale, they live reasonably well, but they don't live as well as you might think. They still suffer stress, they still die fairly young. The stress kills them. But the other problem is that as you climb the ladder, I made a quasi-jocular remark earlier this evening, about half an hour ago. I said, I need 50,000 a year to live on.
I heard that, yeah.
I do. For the lifestyle that I believe I'm entitled to, if you like, I need 50 grand a year. I'm earning more money now than I've ever earned in my life, and I'm still overdrawn at the bank every month. Because we all do. Well, we don't all. Some people are actually quite sensible about it, but I'm not. But lots of us spend every penny we get, and we go striving after things that we really cannot afford.
Yeah.
And just because what my background says I should be able to afford, says I should need, is a reasonable home, reasonable car, reasonable lifestyle. I actually think I want more than that. Yeah. So I go out and spend all I earn getting that. Now, it doesn't bother me if I go bankrupt tomorrow. Fine, I go bankrupt, we'll all have a laugh about it, and we'll go on for a walk on the hills. But there are businessmen who are actually spending a fortune on the treadmill of success.
Yes.
Ask a milkman, where's the biggest debts? Next time you see the milkman, say, listen, where's the biggest debts on your round? I promise you, it won't be the council houses, it'll be the fur coat and no knickers in Formby. That's what it'll be, I'm telling you. That's where the debts are.
Yeah.
They're as much under stress. So it's the people chasing, I nearly said chasing the dragon, but they're not. They're chasing the image of semi-wealth. So they're in problems too.
Look, I tell you what annoys me about this business. You know that, what was her name? You know that minister about health? Curry.
Edwina
Curry.
Wonderful woman.
Well, you know the way people are saying, I hate her, the stuff she comes out with, and everyone's up in arms when she commented on the bad diet in the north. But it's true though, isn't it? A lot of these people do eat chips every single day and go to the pub every
Indeed they do.
Day. It's not good for you, is it?
It's not good for them. Doesn't to me anyhow. Right. Ta-da. I'll do nobody but Steve, you next.
Let's all go on an Avalon holiday.
Imagine yourself at Lake Garda, the largest of the Italian lakes surrounded by picturesque towns and villages. Imagine 10 gorgeous days of excursions to Venice, Italian Dolomite and Bibertino. Well, this could come true with Avalon Travel for just £169, including cross-channel ferry and top accommodation. Ring for details of departure dates on Bolton 398 788.
Let's all go on an Avalon holiday.
Rotters, the Northwest's only big night out. Every Friday and Saturday from 9 p.m. till 2 a.m. Enjoy the time of your life with the best in music at Rotters. The best in hen party nights at Rotters, with 4 bars, 4 dance floors and a better party night atmosphere. Check out Rotters, Oxford Street, Manchester, this Friday or Saturday. Rotters, fun galore and a whole lot more. It's bigger, it's better, it's Rotters. Ring Manchester 236 4934. Manchester 236 4934. Rotters.
Please listen to my ditty. It may not be very witty, nor even slightly funny, but it will help save you money. For me, from cradle to grave, I aim to shop and save. I buy out I need, for next to nought indeed. There's meat and veg and cheese and pigs and booze and clothes and cars and sweets and pigs and pet food and household things. So shop and save a load down Blackpool's Waterloo Road, in the market they call new, and Overt Road, the M2. Thank you. Poetry in prices, from the New Market and M2 Market.
It's the place to come, where shopping can be fun. The Newmarket Waterloo Road.
How do, Steve?
No, do Alan. Come back to a point that was made before, about the... I can't remember the full gist of it, but the ambulance driver was nicked, was he, for leaving the...
Now, what happened is a case in this area. Recently, an ambulance driver was actually... carpeted was the phrase used, told off, chastised, reprimanded, or certainly investigated, because he left his ambulance engine running, and whilst him and his colleague were in the house doing the business, somebody come along and nicked the ambulance, jumped in and drove it away and crashed it.
I see. Right. But isn't it the point that if a fire engine or something turns up to a fire, it leaves its engine running for the compressors to make it, to make it run, to put the fire out?
If I remember correctly, and if my information serves me correctly, they have a separate pump for all that. They have a separate engine. But, and this is the big one, the guy stays with it.
The driver you're talking about?
The driver. The operator stays there and operates all the bits, but I think they have a separate engine for that. I don't think it's actually the vehicle engine
that drives the pump. I think it is on it.
Say again?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it is actually running from the engine.
Well, in that case...
It's a built-in compressor to the engine.
Well, it must have a device that switches it from one to other.
But it still means that...
Otherwise, as it was driving along...
running, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, there's no wrong with having an engine running, is there? Them guys with pneumatic drills, they don't stand by them, do they? They're running
well, no, that's a single compressor, isn't it? Run from...
I don't know what it is.
It's not actually attached to the mode, to the engine. It's a compressor run from either... petrol or diesel, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still run from that. It's still an engine running.
Well, yes, but what I'm saying is, it is not the fire engine as a vehicle that is putting out the fire. It's the fire engine as a special unit putting out the fire.
It still is the vehicle, isn't it, that's putting out it? It's still coming from the vehicle.
It's coming from the vehicle, yeah, but if you deliver bread, the bread's coming from the vehicle.
Yeah, but it's turned off when it goes to a shop. I mean, the point that I'm trying to make is that it's still running from a vehicle.
Yes, and the point I'm making...
that if the vehicle is running, I'm not sure what the law is actually, but...
It just says you cannot leave the engine running on a motor vehicle.
Well, on a motor vehicle... Well, the engine running on a motor vehicle must mean if a fire engine is putting a fire out, then an engine in the vehicle is running.
That is not necessarily the case if the engine has been adapted in such a way or geared in such a way that once it starts to perform its fire engine function, during the course of it performing its fire engine function, it can... That was an unfortunate slip, wasn't it? Function.
Barely.
Don't get the sack for that. Twirl a slip of the tongue on it. Function. While it's doing its bit for the fire...
Back to the point now.
Yes, I might not be able to. Whilst the fire engine bit is doing its function, it won't be able to provide its vehicular function. In other words, once it starts pumping the water out, it can't go along the road. The fireman probably flicks a switch. I don't know. But they're certainly covered for it. The ambulance service aren't.
But I think it's, you know, in my opinion, it's a bit unfair for the simple reason.
Of course it's unfair.
I know, yeah. If somebody's dying and, you know, it's in their own judgment, no matter how much training that they've had, you know, if they get out and somebody's knocked over, then, you know, what they do is they pick them up and put them back in. Whether it be 5 or 10 seconds, that's 5 or 10 seconds can save a life.
Well, yes, it can, but at the end of the day, and the point I tried to get across to our other fella, and he was blinded and couldn't even see it, let alone argue it against it, because I'd like him to argue against it and win, but he couldn't even see it, and that is that the fireman has to, the ambulanceman has to adopt a system that will be the best system in a vast majority of cases.
I understand that, yeah.
Now, the 3 seconds that it takes to turn off the engine and take the key out provides the fireman... Why have I got fireman in my brain?
Because I was talking about fireman earlier.
Provides the ambulanceman with a guarantee that the ambulance...
Functioning.
Those are the ones, yeah. Provides the ambulanceman with the, if you like, guarantee that the ambulance will still be there when he comes out. Now, it is important that it is, because the reason he's rushed there is to take the person to hospital. He only provides emergency first aid. Generally, the patient needs some form of hospitalisation afterwards.
Right, yeah.
And he can't start waiting for a bus. So to save 3 seconds, he may well, and on that case did, lose quarter of an hour.
I didn't hear, I heard the gist of what he was talking about. I never heard the actual point of what was made. Now, whether it be 3 seconds or quarter of an hour, I can't understand why he got a wrapping for it. I can't understand.
He got a wrapping because the ambulance got nicked and it shouldn't have done, and wouldn't have done had he obeyed the procedures. And the wrapping wasn't just because the ambulance got nicked and got crashed by some lunatic who ought to be hung up by his genitalia for a month, but because he put that life at risk. He didn't, as it happens, and thank heaven he didn't. But the potential of putting that life at risk was there. The ambulance was nicked. If that guy who actually didn't need immediate hospitalisation, but if he had have done, he may well have died. Because of that small slip. Now, I think, like you think, that the ambulance guy has done what 90% of us are going to do anyway. I mean, for crying out loud, when I go in the shop for a paper, I leave the engine running. Because I'm as big a crook as everybody else. But at the end of the day, he's got a bigger responsibility than just what he thinks is best for the moment.
Well, he's got 2 responsibilities, hasn't he? He's got a responsibility for the person who's in danger or whatever, and he's got a responsibility for the actual ambulance.
Yeah, well, I'm not over worried about the ambulance getting nicked and getting smashed. The guy that took it's the man we talked to there.
Yeah,
but we have to consider...
The responsibility is to the patient, sort of, isn't it?
The responsibility is to the patient to make sure the ambulance is there, just like he's got to drive safely. It's rather like, I didn't put this point to the other guy, but he can save 5 seconds by going through the lights on red just because his klaxon's going. But if they all get killed in the process, he's not saved much, has he?
No, well, I mean, I was sitting here and I was listening to you, and I was trying to get through. I was sitting here with my brother, actually, and he was saying, and said to me, he said, well, you know, that's the law. And I said, well, you know, he said, it's just like the law, you can't go through a red light. I said, well, how come police get away with it? How come they can do it?
Well, police do get away with it, but not always. I know of one copper who got put back on the beat for going through a red light, but he did get the front of his car took off at the time.
I never heard about that one.
Well, it was well published a few years ago. I rather enjoyed reading it when I read it as well.
Both laughing at that.
We all would have been. Cheers, Steve. Ta-ra. How do Jimmy?
Hello.
Yes.
How are you, mate?
All right. What can I do for you?
I'm going to talk to you about nuclear weapons and
well, you can't. We've banned them for tonight.
Pardon?
We've banned them for tonight. How do Nick? Turn your radio off, Nick. Come and join us, Nicholas.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you actually hold a contraposition to everyone who phones up?
Not always.
Well, you always seem to. I mean...
well, I don't always. You ask me a question, you have an answer.
You see like you're doing it now. You're...
I don't always was the answer to your question. Take it or leave
actually, I'm Flanny and I'm going picking mushrooms.
That's the end of that. Very good. It's now 3 minutes to 2. Time for a little break, then time for me to go. That's the good news. The bad news is Derek Webster's on next.
A far, far better furniture store.
Edmondson's of Blackburn, a far, far better furniture store. For lounge, dining room and bedroom furniture. For famous names in quality carpets. For all home furnishings. Edmondson's offers choice. Edmondson's gives first-class service. And Edmondson's guarantees value for money. All round a far, far better furniture store. At Darwin Street, Blackburn.
A far, far better furniture store. Edmondson's.
If the roof caves in or you need a new bin, get yourself down to Fairwood. Need a new front door or tiles on the floor, get yourself down to Fairwood. If the front gate squeaks or the radiator leaks or the house needs a lick of paint, then nail it, screw it, you know you can do it yourself with Fairwood. Need a tin of grout or a new downspout, do it yourself with Fairwood. Patio flags and cement in bags, do it yourself with Fairwood. Keep the weather out, insulate the house, you can save yourself a mint. Just nail it, screw it, you know you can do it yourself with Fairwood.
At Cemetery Road Southport, Higgins Lane Burscough, and now at Market Woods, Wigan Road, West Horton.
Luxury coach travel and Avalon go hand in hand. When it comes to Paris, and on the 26th of June for 3 superb days, it's just £65, including local pickup points, cross-channel ferry and top accommodation. Can you afford not to travel Avalon? Ring Bolton 398 788 to book your holiday.
398 788 to book your holiday.
Can you believe it? A complete luxury fitted bedroom of real quality for just £350 plus VAT. It's true. At M&S Fitted Bedrooms of Preston and Bolton. For £350, we'll design, plan and fit 2 wardrobes, 1 bridging unit, 2 corner displays and 2 bedside cabinets. Do not buy a fitted bedroom till you've visited M&S Fitted Bedrooms, 342 Blackpool Road, Fulwood, Preston, or 156 Blackburn Road, Bolton. But hurry, this offer's for a limited period only. Open Monday to Saturday 10 till 4, Sundays 12 till 3.
That's a station jingle, that. I don't play that much. Just thought I'd have a little bimble of it. Webby's next, as I've already told you. If you want to meet me, then at 2 o'clock on Saturday, I'll be at Moorfield School, Moorpark in Preston, opening... Moorpark in Preston, opening their summer fair. I'm quite looking forward to that. Come along and say hello. Failing that, I'll see you tonight at 10. Ta-da!
The 2 o'clock news, this is Sarah Jones. A man has been shot dead in West Belfast in what seems to have been a sectarian murder by terrorists. David Stokes has been to the scene of the shooting.
The father of 4 was lifting groceries out of the boot of his car parked outside his West Belfast home when the terrorist struck from a passing vehicle. At least 6 bullets hit the man, and a young eyewitness describes what he saw.
I saw a man leaning out over a door with a gun. It might have been a rifle, I don't know. I just seen him pulling it in and getting into the car and it spun down.
This was after the shooting?
Yeah. It went down a new road onto Shankill Road.
The murdered man was due to leave on a Spanish holiday with his family later today. Police are working on the theory that the shooting was sectarian. David Stokes, IRN, Belfast.
19 West German fishermen have been rescued after their trawler started to sink in Scotland's Pentland Firth. The aircraft carrier Ark Royal took part in the operation. Keith McDougall reports.
The 1,000-ton trawler sank within 20 minutes. It got into trouble when water flooded its engines as it sailed through the Pentland Firth. The Ark Royal, which happened to be in the area, went to the scene and took command of the rescue effort. A host of ferry boats and small fishing vessels turned out from Orkney and the north coast. One of the Ark Royal helicopters winched 1 German out of the water. The other 18 clambered onto the small boats. Because the trawler won't be raised, full questions over its sudden sinking may never be answered. Keith McDougall, IRN, Glasgow.
Tory MPs are calling for a shake-up in the prosecution services after a magistrate freed John Fleming, who's been in custody since he was brought back from Florida in March. The JP cleared Mr Fleming of involvement in the Brinksmat bullion robbery. Now MP John Wheeler is asking why the case was brought. The vicar leading the Teesside Families campaign to have their children returned from council care has admitted that one of the children concerned has suffered sexual abuse. But the Reverend Michael Wright is still insisting that most of the families are innocent of any wrongdoing. Helena Kirkwood reports.
Clergyman Michael Wright, who's spearheading the campaign to have families reunited, left a crowded parents' meeting admitting there have now been several confessions of sexual abuse.
There were a couple of couples who felt that may have happened, or one father who recognised that it had happened within the family by a slightly older brother.
Reverend Wright says that couple is still desperate to have the child returned, guaranteeing her future safety, and he's insisting the vast majority of families still protest their complete innocence. Helena Kirkwoodshire, Wren, Middlesbrough.
South Korea's leading opposition figure, Kim Dae-jung, has been put back under house arrest only a day and a half after his surprise release by the government in an attempt to quell growing street unrest. Police say it's only a temporary measure to stop Kim joining today's Peace March for Democracy. Independent Radio News.
Red Rose, nighttime radio.
Derek Webster.
Take the ribbon from your head.